And we are live.
Aloha Snackbar, everyone. It's the one, the only, the gorilla in the economist, the illustrious ape, along with the uncanny denizen of the deep, CJ, who is making sure that the airwaves of this broadcast is coming off without any sort of fluctuations or flaws, using the incredible hybrid technology of dilithium crystals and flux capacitor working in unison. With that being said, guys, check us out on roguemoney.net as well as the Rogue Money Facebook page, and at the Rogue Money is where you can follow us on Twitter. With that being said, also check out the podcasting app on Apple as well as on Android. Just type in whatever podcasting app you use, just type in Rogue Money. Voila, we are there. I personally prefer Pocket Cast on Android. But other than that, I also recommend that you check us out on the Apple News app. You just type in Rogue Money and boom, we are there, my friend. With that getting out of the way, and another day, if you are knowing someone or you yourself are suffering from debt and you need help, call my boys over at myfreedomnow.us, myfreedomnow.us. Get a second chance at life. Get a second chance. Hit the reset button. Get your score from a 500 to 720 plus. Let the boys show you how it's done. And heck, if you go on there right now, you can book a call with yours truly, myfreedomnow.us. Get the second chance you deserve. Or heck, if you just need a better credit score, you get a house or refinance or whatnot, just check them out, myfreedomnow.us. CJ, it is a very special day today, sir.
Oh, special indeed. Special indeed. The last 24 hours, I've just had this influx of energy beyond comprehension of the energy I'm feeling right now.
Man, I was going through a whole litany of emotions, CJ. I was laughing. I was crying. I was sad. I was elated. I mean, so many emotions at once, CJ. I was just absolutely overwhelmed, to say the least, my man. Overwhelmed, to say the least.
Yeah, we've waited 8 years for this one day, V.
Feels
8
like
years.
16, CJ.
Yeah, I know it does. I know it does. I know it does.
Feels like 16 years of this crony, this braggart. Oh my God, I can't wait.
I know.
It's an Obama day.
Yeah, I started, with the activities last night and, gearing up for it. And so I cranked last night. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try to get my work done early. That way I can get to bed at least by midnight. And, when I did that, which is early for me, right? Because, we work late sometimes. And long story short, I jumped up like at 4 a.m. thinking it was time to go. I'm like, calm down, boy. Calm down. Get back to bed.
You were ready to go this morning, bro.
Ready to go.
Man, I'm pumped up, bro. We got an exciting broadcast. We got, of course, a great morning show, as always. Probably one of the best morning shows you could ever listen to. Share it with your friends. Smash the subscribe button. Hit the thumbs up for the like. If you also, CJ, tell everybody what we're doing this afternoon, bro.
Yeah, if you don't, I think pretty much everyone on here probably follows us on social media. But if you have not heard the news, we have a very, very special announcement. This afternoon from 2 to 4:30, we will be live streaming our 44th presidential inauguration for an Obama Day. Now, here's this. Here's the kicker, okay? We have a special guest lineup that is just out of this world. In fact, I would even claim, B, that this is a Truth Media first.
Yes.
So, yes, absolutely. So today, we're going to have Dave with us from X22. We're going to have Sean from SGT, Ken Shorgan Jr., The Daily Economist, Bankster Slayer, Gus Demos from Perpetual Assets, and a very excited, first time ever, the Prince from Rogue Money Contributor will be joining us, and not least, the W, the Intelligence Insider. So we're going to be doing this live starting at 2 o'clock today. I am so pumped up for this show. It's going to be very organized, guys. We're going to flow people in like maybe 20, 25-minute increments. Obviously, there may be a little flow over. But listen in, because this will be just a dynamic show full of great insiders that are going to share, their hopes, their dreams of what's happened, what's on their radar. So, V, I'm pumped up for that show.
Man, I'm pumped up as well, bro. I mean, I can't wait for this afternoon at 4, at 2 o'clock, 2 to 4. Listen in, man. Every 20 minutes, guys, it's going to be a new guest coming in, celebrating talking about 8 years of skid mark and how skid mark left a skid mark in American history. So that's going to be awesome. And then tonight we have a very, very special guest. Why don't you just go ahead and share with everyone, CJ, who's that going to be?
Yeah, I'm very excited tonight. We are going to have Ivan, the author of Dark Triad Man. Ivan is a very special individual who has lots of history of military. From just this guy has just studied so much, and we've been trying to get him for a while, and it's all worked out. So he is going to be going live with us tonight. It's going to be a special broadcast for that one as well, because we're actually going to be using a service to come in and help him. Ivan does have a little bit of a hearing disability, so we're going to be using a firm that's going to help us to be able to narrate through the interview. So that'll be exciting. That'll be Rogue Money First as well.
No, definitely. I mean, Ivan Thorne is deaf. He is he has a background as a stockbroker, but he's also studied like ancient Japanese military tactics and philosophy. He wrote the book called The 9 Laws. Okay, let me tell you guys something. I said, okay, fine. Let me find out, because I always like to do a little bit of background on the guest, CJ. And I just downloaded the sample from Amazon.com onto my Kindle. And within the first couple of pages, look, man, I have 1,000,001 books at my disposal. I have all the greats. I have, all the greats and the who's who of personal and professional development. Ivan Thorne's book, just after I finished reading the sample, I downloaded and purchased the digital copy, and I ordered the hardcover. Every so often in my life, there are books that come into play that radically challenge me, that really grab me on a very spiritual level and takes me in very deeply. This is one of those books. This is a book that grabbed me by the throat. It's written for men from a men's perspective. It is incredible, to say the least. It is beyond self-help. It is beyond, productivity or anything like that. It is, if you will, a modern day Sun Tzu's Art of War, but for the personal, at a personal level. That's exactly how I could describe it. This book is called The 9 Laws. Not only did I order the hardcover copy from Amazon, I spent the extra money to have it shipped here, 1-day delivery. CJ, I've never done that before.
Wow.
Yeah, 1-day delivery. I spent, so it was like $24.99 for the hardcover, and I spent like the additional $8.99 for next day delivery. So it's going to be here tomorrow.
Awesome.
So that's how serious it is. In the meantime, I'm reading it on my Kindle, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm taking notes. I don't do that often. This guy Thorne, who was, he had meningitis as a child, and he lost his hearing. Think about this guy navigating the world. And he realized the world is an absolutely brutal and dark place. How do you navigate it? One of the things I always think about, I discuss so often with family members and those who are awake, is the quantum physics, that everything is ruled by energy. Everything. look at this matter. I'm sitting on this desk. CJ's, sitting on his desk. We got a computer screen in front of us, and this is matter. This is matter. And what the hell is matter? It's energy slowed down that your 5 senses could interpret it. So because this thing is vibrational, I know for a fact that human beings, being the apex predators on this planet, we also have a great ability. We are more than our meat suits, and we have a fantastic ability that affects our environment in such a drastic way. We are able to somehow manipulate, to some given extent, the environment in which we live. So all that's going to be it's going to be going over tonight. I'm looking to read the rest of his stuff some more. But apart from that, CJ, let's get into it. Let's get into it, my friend.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the last 24 hours, V, it's been very hard to stay positive. Something I'm a big believer in is just having a positive mental attitude. And, so obviously I'm very excited about the changeover, but, that we see so much, crap going on right now with these instigators and these people that are, pretty much what they're saying right now, V, is if you really think about it this way, okay, we have a democratic process, and we had an election. We went through the election, and the results came in, and the people decided. Now we have these groups that are out there that are advocating for, well, Trump's not going to make it 4 years. This wasn't a real election, everything. So they're pretty much just saying that they don't believe in that. They're not willing to accept the election outcome. And it just really, Michael Moore that's out there right now just really, irritates me, V, some of the stuff that's going on right now. It's just hard to get past it. Just pretty much so because, like what you said, you just want to grab them by the throat and shake them and say, wake up. Well, here's my message to those folks. If you don't like the results of the election outcome and everything that happened in our democracy, then pack your shit and get the hell out. It's that simple.
Amen. Absolutely, dude. I'm with you on that one. Get the hell out of here. Go to North Korea, you bastards. Go to Venezuela. Go somewhere else, you butthurt liberals. But of course you can't, because you're too damn broke to go anywhere. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I think you sent me that link with Gavin McInnes last night, dude, when he punched out some snowflake. I think it's come to the time. I'm not inciting violence, nor am I condoning it or anything like that, but just sometimes, I mean, every so often, CJ, it's like your fist kind of cocks back and you just want to right in the face of one of these snowflakes, bro.
You got to send a message. You got to send a message. I mean,
because that's what's needed, because these snowflakes, these social justice warriors, they are where they are because their dads never beat them, or they didn't have dads to begin with. They never got an ass whooping. That's what it is. They never been really dealt with any confrontation in school. These are idiots who never know. They have no idea on how to lose. They don't know how to lose. They don't know how to deal with not getting their way. So someone's got to smack them up, CJ. Maybe those 200,000 bikers that are down there right now, maybe those guys could teach these idiots a lesson. I don't know. I'm just saying. Because a lot of people, oh my God, they're protesting. Nobody cares. These are punks. Okay, these are punks. These are the equivalent of schoolyard bullies, but actually worse, because these guys, when they get hit, or they get intimidated, or they're going to be running the other direction, man. So yeah, Gavin had the right idea. It's time to put the fist to face with some of these idiots, man. I mean, you just can't be. The whole thing is they were going to that deplorable, and some idiot protester jumps in the way. Gavin just went at it, So.
Yeah, I mean, the guy kept instigating. I mean, there's only so far before you have to defend yourself, and that's something I strongly, advocate for. I teach my kids that, right now they're both doing, taekwondo and other things, and it's not so much that, like I always tell them, I don't ever expect you to go on the offensive or do anything crazy like that, but at the same time, you need to know how to defend yourself. So, if for that reason, so yeah, when someone pushes you too far, you've got to come to a point where you defend yourself, because if you don't, you're going to invite about another 100 of those same people. They're going to do the same thing to other people. So it was a good message to say, you mess with me, I'm going to knock you in the nose, and boom, that's it.
Dude, absolutely, man. I think one of the best lines, man. Have you seen the movie American Sniper?
That's not a new one. That's an old one, right? Or
it's an old one. It's 2014.
Okay, yeah. Vaguely, I remember a little bit. Why don't you share?
Well, I think the best thing states it, man. There's this. The movie starts off with basically Chris Kyle's a young boy. He's with his brother, his dad, his mom. They're sitting around the dinner table. And this is, at a time when, dads were all about creating young men, not fairies. And his dad was sitting there. It's in Texas, because, that also adds a little bit of extra testosterone levels, because it's in Texas, went up a few notches there. So, his dad's sitting there and he's explaining the world to his two boys. And he says, there's three types of people in this world: sheep, wolves, and sheepdogs. Some people prefer to believe that evil doesn't exist in the world. And if it ever darkened their doorstep, they wouldn't know how to protect themselves. Those are the sheep. Then you've got predators who use violence to prey on the weak. They're the wolves. And then there are those blessed with the gift of aggression, an overpowering need to protect the flock. These men are the rare breed who live to confront the wolf. They're the sheepdog. That line right there capitulates. That line right there absolutely captures the entire struggle of what is going on right now. Trump and his team, the people that are behind him, that have protected him and brought him this far, we the listeners, we who are in this broadcast, and others like us in what I'm calling and what we are calling, CJ, the new media. I'm not even going to call it alt media because I don't want to get caught up with the Anunnaki guys and, you know, Bigfoot screwed my wife and all this other stuff. I'm talking about the new media, right?
Yeah.
We're the sheepdog. There is a, you know, in decades and decades and decades of social engineering, in decade after decade, the cadence that's been delivered upon the societal conscious of the United States is that testosterone, masculinity, manhood is a terrible, evil thing. Vilified, blamed upon, tortured, and yearned to be removed. That was the attitude they had towards masculinity, towards testosterone. There's a resurgence because the last several decades, thanks to Oblumblaa, thanks to Barry Skidmark, we were at a place that was surrounded by wolves, my friend. We were in a place that was surrounded by wolves, and then all of a sudden, men who were blessed with the gift of aggression, an overpowering patriotic need to protect the flock, began to rise. And they began to rise, CJ, in the alt media. They began to rise in the military. They began to rise within government. They began to rise within the captains of industry. They began to rise in the streets and main streets and corridors of of America all over this country, from the East Coast to the West Coast. They began to rise. Men blessed with the gift of aggression, an overpowering need to protect the flock. These patriotic men, the rare breed, began to rise. And on November the 8th, 2016, we let it be known. And CJ, what did I say? I said, this is going to be the election that the men, for the first time, are going to be coming out of the woodwork, because we recognize, CJ, we recognize the threat. We're the sheepdogs, bro.
Well said, bro. Well said. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
With that being said, my man, where do you want to begin? What quarter of the world do you want to start with?
Well, we talked about the disruption of, the events last night. I think we covered that fairly well. Obama gave his last speech, right? So he's out now. He gave his farewells and flying off to the West, California, to go play some more golf. And so, I think I'll take the high road. I think I'll say, good luck and bon voyage, and we'll see you.
You're better than I am. I would say, don't let the door hit you on the way out. See you wouldn't want to be your Skidmark.
Yeah. So, again, obviously they're still today, but, he basically, he signed off on the job and, said goodbye and, kind of assured the press corps, hey, don't worry, it's going to be okay. And all of his supporters are now, not supporters, but the people that work for him now looking for jobs, unemployed.
I love what Arlie Schleimer said, man. the thing that Donald Trump is also proposing is to start drug testing the press corps.
Can you imagine that?
I love
That'd
it.
be awesome.
I love it because you got to be on drugs. You got to be on drugs to be, sitting there and asking the type of ridiculous questions that, this press corps was out there saying, man. But anyway, you got the world's biggest SJW, which is Michael Moore. He said what he had to say. I want Michael Moore, dude. Just it's the walking stroke, aka Captain Cholesterol, is out there talking about. And you might say, those that are listening say, "Oh, V, you're fat shaming him." You're damn right, I'm fat shaming him. So Captain Cholesterol is out there spewing hatred and rhetoric after admitting the fact that a Trump victory would be the biggest FU the world has ever seen, that this is the angst of the guy who lost his factory job in Detroit. He's the type of guy who's going to be voting for Trump. And now he's out there saying and hoping that Trump will fail. I mean, dude, you are a fifth column. You need to go away. You need to go. I thought you turned a new leaf, Mike, but obviously that is not the case. You're up to your old antics. You, at the end of the day, are a bitter libtard. A bitter libtard. I think you should go bowling for Columbine. Go get yourself, alongside the rest of the SJWs and libtards on the West Coast, go purchase yourself a firearm. And I've given you explicit directions on how to handle that firearm in yesterday's broadcast, so you can go ahead and replay it, and I'll tell you how to properly position it so you can, do us all a favor, Mike. Jeez Louise, bro.
Yeah, let's do this, V. These folks, these agitators, Michael Moore, their protest march yesterday on Trump Towers. We have the women's rights march happening this weekend in D.C. What rights has Trump taken away?
Yeah.
What rights has Trump done? He's not even in office yet. Why don't you people think for a moment the last 8 years of the decay of our individual liberties and what Obama has done? Why don't we talk about a couple of those, V?
Oh my God! Go ahead, CJ, bro.
Why don't we talk about the first American killed on foreign soil without any type of due process?
Yep, Anwar al-Awlaki.
An open, pretty much saying that, no Miranda rights, no due process, nothing. We have the right to kill American citizens when we want to.
They killed him and his 15-year-old son like a week later. Like, why would you kill this kid?
So you want to talk to me about rights? You want to go on a march and talk about rights? Let's talk about this. Let's talk about the expansion of the NSA allowing the data to be shared with pretty much the FBI, whoever wants it. So it's now that all this data, the open spying. Let's talk about spying on foreign country leaders, V.
Yep.
The past 8 years we saw this. So when you're sitting there, you're having these marches over rights and everything. You're basing it upon what the media has programmed you to. Can't you people understand that? Can you not understand that the last 8 years we have witnessed that right taken away? We've seen the IRS go after conservatives. We've seen the IRS go after nonprofits, delaying, tax identification numbers for those.
Yeah.
We've seen weapons being distributed at the hopes of being able to get legislation passed. The gun running in Mexico. How many thousands of people were killed in Mexico because of those guns that were provided by this administration?
Right.
So don't march on U.S. soil and talk to me about rights taken away. Not when this past year, the past 8 years, this piece of crap lowlife has done everything to corrode away our liberties and our freedom in this country. Sorry, V, I just had to do that.
I mean, it's exactly right. And these sycophant, low IQ, leftist, pawns, the cannon fodder that's out there. This is how the deep state marches. The deep state marches with always the libtard at the forefront. The libtard has always historically been at the tip of the spear. of every sort of deep state movement throughout American history and throughout much of the Western world. It is the libtard. This is the same type of bullcrap that's been done in the Maidan in Ukraine. This is the same type of nonsense that Vladimir Putin warned us about, that, hey, they're going to try a Maidan-style coup against Trump in D.C., but it's not going to work, you a-holes. Because the difference between the Maidan, where a bunch of idiotic, idealized young people who don't have a job showed up and protested, and then when they're out there protesting, the deep state pulled their move with their intelligence ops. The difference is this. You have a wall, an absolute wall, and that wall is called the American people. And the American people are going to be showing up today, CJ. I have no doubt about it. And they're going to make their voices heard. And that sycophant SJW wall is going to be hitting is going to be hitting, that tidal wave is going to be hitting the wall of America, of real Americana. Now, here's the deal, man. I mean, here's reports coming in that, Trump supporters that were at the ball, the Deplora ball, some of them were beaten. They were jumped. I mean, Trump supporters beaten and bloodied outside Deplora ball, pummeled with eggs and batteries. Okay, I mean, think about this. It's unreal. I mean, I'm just looking at this feed coming in, Twitter video after Twitter video. These are people, man, who are just minding their business. They are not allowed to have any sort of, political ideologies except that of the left. I mean, if they were all walking around with Hillary T-shirts, man, they would have, been left alone. I mean, these people are having batteries thrown at them, and these people, this is what protest is, where you're physically, attacking people. I mean,
right.
There's I'm looking at videos of, people just being attacked, man. For what? For what? I mean, protesters outside the deplorable shouting, "No Trump, no KKK, no fascist USA." How stupid are you, low IQ? You moron! There's interviews of these idiots, CJ, where they're like, "Well, what do you think's gonna? I don't want to get caught up and go to a plantation." How the hell are you gonna go to a plantation, you dumbass? How's that gonna happen? I mean, has these guys? I mean, what do they do? Did they get up in the morning, examine their viewpoints for 1 second? Do they examine like who they are, what they're exactly protesting? Oh, wait! I get it. Georgi Schwartz, aka George Soros, cut them a check for $2,500 to go out there and create as much havoc as possible, irrespective of whatever ideologies they hold on to, bro.
Exactly. I think one of the things that irritated me the most, V, is that there's a lot of reports coming in, and this has been confirmed, that schools are actually blocking the feed into the schools of the inauguration. That they have deemed it that they don't want to take that risk of what risk?
What risk?
They in other schools they are saying that, you know what, you need to be in middle school or above to be able to show the inauguration in your classroom. Imagine if they would have did that to Obama.
Oh no, they were singing Jesus songs but taking the word Jesus out and inserting Obama in there.
Yeah. So think of that. That's just just the stupidity that's there. That we're worried that someone's going to get triggered or something by showing the inauguration of the last. It hasn't happened in 4 years, and depriving the kids of the right to be educated to know what is happening in the world is just very irritating. And then what is George Soros saying? What is George Soros saying that is basically being evicted from his home country, where they're looking at just shutting down his entire operation? You're aligning yourself with someone that has been known to create regime changes using colored revolutions and funding all these things. Yeah. So yesterday, George Soros goes on to say that billionaire George Soros spoke on Bloomberg TV in Davos. Okay, Davos of all places. And he said the euphoria among stock investors since the victory of President-elect Donald Trump will end as uncertainty takes over. So in this interview, he goes on to basically state that if Trump could, he would be a dictator. Well, what legislation did Obama get passed using Congress and Senate? None.
Exactly, dude. You know, I just got a funny meme, and the meme is this is some SJW snowflake, out there angrily protesting, and he's got like a Bernie Sanders T-shirt on, and all of a sudden he turns to the side, and there's this huge freaking guy standing right to the side of him, and the guy and the SJW looks at him with his eyes bulging out of his skull and his mouth dropped. This guy who's standing next to him, this big dude, has his T-shirt on, says "Bikers for Trump," and the meme says, "The moment you realize you're not on the internet."
You need to tweet that out, man.
I'm going to tweet that out, no doubt, man. I have to, because it's super important, bro. It's it's unreal, man. It really is unreal. It's got to stop, CJ. And while this is happening, what's going on? Bombs away somewhere, right? The Empire of Chaos, in its last dying breath, needs to make one more point across. And what's going on with the bombs over
yeah, so it's interesting. We just talked about this, the other day regarding Libya, and you alluded to it, at least a couple weeks ago. So here we are once again, and this is the first time in particular that stealth bombers have been used in specific with conducting operations. Usually it's a lot of smaller tactical weapons and things that they've been using, but in this certain situation, that U.S. stealth bombers killed over 80 alleged ISIS fighters in Libya strikes. Having declared their military operation in Libya over a month ago, U.S. stealth bombers flew into the Libyan city of Sirte and have spent more than 30 hours carrying out massive bombing campaign, dropping over 100 munitions on camps on the city's outskirts, killing over 80 people. The Pentagon insists that everyone killed in the attack. The Pentagon insists that everyone that was killed in the attacks was not only an ISIS fighter, but they were external plotters, all of whom were actively plotting operations in Europe. They did not indicate how many they could possibly have, how they could have possibly known in this case. So again, I think this goes on to say the bigger question is that we spent the majority of 2016, with little or nothing going on in that country, and now why this? We're dropping bombs like crazy because we've lost that battle. So we've lost it in Syria. Now we're a little bit worried about a potential change in another country. So we've got to go in and drop more bombs and create this fake narrative of ISIS and terrorists and everything.
The whole terrorist boogeyman bullshit, that whole story, that whole narrative is falling apart. There's no such thing as a global war on terror. It's horse shit. And again, these guys are out there saying, "Oh yeah, we've dropped our stealth fighters. We're flying around 30 hours of sorties, and we killed over 80 ISIS people on the outskirts of Sirte in Libya." Well, the question is, why the hell would a large collection of ISIS plotters, why would they be just hanging around on the outskirts of Sirte in Libya? Why would they hang around on the outskirts of that city? Huh? Since all the military operations in Libya, has stopped, all of a sudden these guys decide to just hang. No, there's something more to it. More than likely, CJ, it is to hit back. It is probably to we know of reports of Chinese as well as Russian forces that were in the area. Were these bombs dropped on them? We don't know. But the point is, why is this happening now? It's so stupid, bro.
Right. And I think we've alluded to a little bit of the change in guard where, that Russia's having some involvement there, correct? In Libya?
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be a changing of the guard there soon. What people don't talk about is that Aisha Gaddafi, she's alive, and her brother as well. He's been released from The Hague because it was all trumped up charges, right? So the Gaddafis will be making a comeback, and they are loved. Hear this correctly. They are loved by their people. Loved. Muammar Gaddafi was absolutely adored by his people. He was one of those benevolent dictators. What he's done for his country and his people is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. the level. I mean, there's some benevolent dictatorships that have occurred in history. Like one of the best examples was how Singapore got to where it was. It's because of one man. And then, he died, got old and left a parliament behind him. But Singapore ascended world prominence because of that one individual. Same thing with what Gaddafi was doing in Libya. Biggest mistake. He wanted a gold trade settlement note for the payment of oil. That's what got him whacked.
So, V, and that's the thing that, interestingly enough, and talking about the wars, the bombs, and everything, it was very interesting what Jack Ma had to say about the problems in the United States, right? Mm-hmm. When you think of it, and the trillions of dollars that have been spent the last 25, 30 years on all these wars, the intervention. And he's exactly right. What if those trillions of dollars, he's estimating probably close to $30 trillion, could have been used instead for investing in infrastructure of our own people? Imagine how different of a society we could be today.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I mean, and Jack Ma, one of the most wealthiest men in the world, incredibly brilliant guy, created Alibaba. And think about it. He said this. It's not that other countries steal jobs from you guys, Ma said. It's your strategy. Distribute the money and things in a proper way. And you might say to yourself, that sounds communistic. Was he talking about distribution of wealth? Well, what he's saying is instead of pouring and distributing your money into the military-industrial complex, why don't you distribute your money for private ventures? Why don't you distribute your money for better schools and competition for schools to create more engineers and scientists? Why don't you distribute your money in such a way that it will help and benefit the American public? And it's look what he says. He says American multinational companies made millions and billions of dollars from globalization. The past 30 years, IBM, Cisco, Microsoft, they made tens of billions. The profits they've made are much more than the 4 Chinese banks put together. But where did the money go? Ma's answer is Silicon Valley and Wall Street. He says the world needs new leadership. But new leadership is about working together. As a business person, I want the world to share the prosperity together. Because look, here's the deal, guys. There's absolutely, I said this before, there's so much money to be made on the Silk Road. There's so much money to be made. There's enough wealth and money to be made that we can all benefit. This country that we live in can benefit. We have to be involved in what is occurring throughout the world, man.
Yeah, he pretty much nailed it, V, and it was very interesting. And then at the same very time, a perfect example of where all that money and all that time spent, what usually happens. Ukraine very much is kind of up in the air right now. Yeah. Right? And then next you look at what occurred in Moldova with the amount of money U.S. has spent there trying to influence them to become more Eurocentric, right?
Yeah.
And now they come out and they flip it and say, you know what? We're going to align ourselves with Russia now.
Exactly. The handwriting's on the wall. And let's call this Vicky Nuland slap in the face on her way out. Here you go, Nuland. F the EU, Nuland. How's about a slap? How about a kick in your dumpy rear end on your way out the door? The Washington Transatlantic Empire suffered a blow this week when Moldova's newly elected president, Igor Dodon, announced his country's realignment towards Russia in a joint press conference held with Vladimir Putin in Moscow. What a sad day this must be for the neocons, the transatlanticists, the globalists, the Victoria Nulands, and George Soroses of the world. While they can't have spent nearly as much money as Moldova as they did brainwashing and overthrowing Ukraine, which is $5 billion according to Vicky, they surely have invested a lot of time attempting to pull Moldova into Washington's Euro-Atlantic sphere. Now, it's all for naught. It turns out you really can't erase history, culture, tradition, language, family ties easily, even with a $1 billion re-education program. The same will eventually prove true in the Ukraine. Those Moldovans who are of Romanian extraction have seen how poorly Romania has fared in the EU and as a U.S. NATO vassal. Those of Russian heritage never supported to move toward Washington and Brussels in the first place. Now, finally, they have a president who represents their interests. This is not the type of democracy that globalists like to see, CJ. That's the whole thing. Why do you think the Crimeans says, we're getting out of here. We don't want to be annexed with Ukraine. No, Crimea was annexed to the Russians without firing a shot. Why? Because when you look at where Crimea is now and how it has prospered in relation to its neighbor, Ukraine, which is right now a failed state, it is a haunt of jackals. It is the headquarters of narco traffickers and human trafficking, as well as despots and oligarchs and warlords who are all fighting amongst themselves. Compare that to Crimea. And the Crimeans like, yeah, we'll stay. And then the Moldovans were like, we're seeing how the Romanians are being treated like horse crap. We're going to realign. And this is the problem with the New World Order retards. You stupid schmuckety schmucks think that human culture, traditions, and family ties have no value. You think culture is a weakness in humanity. You don't understand the powerful ties of culture. So in the ties of culture and the ties of tribalism, in the things that bind us together, tribally, philosophically, these are powerful binders. You simply cannot subvert them. No matter how many trillions of dollars you spent, on re-education, how many trillions of dollars, hundreds of trillions of dollars they spent on their stupid globalization scheme, CJ, it amounts to nothing because you cannot squash and quell out, human culture. Unless you're, of course, from Belgium, then you have no culture. But anyway.
Well, and B, you're exactly right, and to think of the amount of money that the U.S. has spent, so this dates back to Ukraine, for example, where money in regards to the anti-government riots, there wasn't no color. There was a color revolution that occurred. We funded it. We spent probably close to $5 billion alone to get that accomplished, and the money continues. When you hear that the IMF is giving money to Ukraine and so forth, that's not IMF. That's the United States. That's our money basically going out. So it's exactly true that if we could focus on ourselves, focus on the United States, focus on becoming a better country, how much more jobs could be created? Yeah. How much more people could go off of government dependency to becoming, self-sufficient? Just amazing, V. Just crazy.
Yep, absolutely, bro. Absolutely. And we would be unstoppable. We would be unstoppable. And the beat goes on, CJ. The beat goes on. What is going on? Again, the Pop-Tart. What's going on with that Pop-Tart, Megyn Kelly? I can't stand this woman, but go ahead.
No, I just want to give a shout out. It was very interesting when, the whole time, Megyn attacked Trump through pretty much the whole primary, right? She did it in the primary, that very first debate. She stayed on the offensive. She tried to make amends by going there and becoming friends, and then she continued to purposely have guests on that were vocal critics, and she did that throughout the entire primary, leading up to, and obviously she's left now. But Carlson Tucker, who took over for her news hour, okay, this guy is setting the world on fire right now. I've watched him the last few nights. I usually just record it and watch it.
Yeah.
But he's like calling in like all these figures and just calling, not name calling, anything like that, just challenging them on their facts. And what's interesting for me is the ratings came in, and guess what?
What?
He is kicking the tail out of Megyn Kelly's ratings.
Good, because you can't cuck the tuck. That's what it is, CJ. You can't cuck the tuck. Tucker Carlson kicking out sticky names, man. See, Megyn Kelly was high. Megyn Kelly, like all the other fake, media created shills of 2016, like the Ronda Rouseys and this, that, and the other, has realized that she herself is a media created show. She enjoyed that time slot of the viewership because it was the time slot, bro. You just happen to have a couple million people that have nothing better to do on that night except watch this bimbo spew stupid rhetoric. This little Pop-Tart. That's what it is, bro.
Yeah. So I mean, if you get a chance to check out Tucker's show, I think he does a great job. He is obviously very professional, but whenever people talk nonsense and they don't have their facts in place, he very tactfully just calls them out with it. He's like, listen, let's you claim you have the facts. Let's take a look at this. And he calls guests out. Like, for example, he had the potential next chair of the Democratic Party on the other night and was challenging her on some of the aspects around, okay, why isn't the Democratic Party willing to embrace the idea of bringing drugs back from Canada to sell in the United States? Because obviously we know that it's not a level playing field in the pharmaceutical industry on pricing, right? The United States pretty much pays for all of funding. We pay a significant amount more than all other countries, and that's by design. So, Trump has proposed, we'll just buy them back from Canada then and sell it and save the insurance companies a lot of money doing so. And so he was calling out, it's like, well, why wouldn't you support that? Why wouldn't that be a good idea? Why wouldn't the Democratic Party embrace that? Well, Carl, so, I don't know enough about it, but, and she ties it back to race. And he just instantly just says, why do you always have to, why does it have to always fall back to race? Why can't you talk about something, get out of your comfort zone? I know you have your talking points that, Trump hates everyone, he's going to kick out every Mexican. Well, he's not going to. So he just calls him out. But again, just, I'm glad that he stepped in. I'm glad his show is not just another, Bill O'Reilly talking point hour, that he has guest on with very opposing views, and then he also has a special that he brings in, other contributors, and they talk about, just kind of different things, almost like we do at Rogue Money. So check him out. But more importantly, I was just happy that his ratings just, kick the tail out of Megyn Kelly's ratings the last several months. So kudos to him.
Yeah, kudos to Tuck. You can't cuck the Tuck. That's the situation over there. Hey, man, let's talk about one of my favorite states. And look, if you're in California, I don't mean no offense to you. You're a listener, and I know that I have fans out there. Look, I love you guys. I'm begging and pleading with you. Please get out of there before the ship sinks. I have friends there, very good friends, and I always tell them, please get out of there. They're like, we're trying, man. We're trying. So what's going on, with the West Coast and their lack of ability to – what is it about the liberal mind? They have this oppressed and oppressor concept because everything comes down to race or some sort of oppressor, but they have an inability to do math. What's going on over there, bro?
So pretty much every state government puts out the budgeting forecast and what they anticipate for outgoings and incoming receivables and everything. Uh-huh. So Governor Brown had to go on and to share why that the California Budget Committee had a 1.5 billion math error shortfall in their budgeting. Wow. So basically what happened is that they're very math challenged. They can't figure out, obviously, there's probably thousands of lines, right? When you look at, all the budgeting and everything and all the payables, what they were doing, and obviously it was probably more on purpose, they were actually double counting state savings programs, like, hey, we're putting out this initiative is going to save this much money. So they were double counting that. They were double counting it in, and then when the real money came in and the budget came in, they ended up with this $1.5 billion shortfall. And I'm saying billion. I'm not talking about million, folks. You got to understand that. Granted, yes, California is a big state, but to have a $1.5 billion error.
Good God. This wasn't $1,500 or $10,000. This was $1.5 billion error. Like, wow, it's scary. Like, how do they ruin such a great state in X amount of decades? Like, how dumb did it get, man? Like, what level of, oh my God, I'm speechless. How do you double count savings? How?
Well,
How do you do that?
when you're presenting it to the taxpayers, it looks good at the time until the actual hard numbers comes in. V.
Dude, I mean, can you imagine saying to your spouse, like, you're trying to balance your checkbook, hey, honey, I double counted the savings. What? Are you kidding me? This doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so when they were asked about it, okay, so the chief deputy director of Brown's Department of Finance could offer no other explanation than the math was wrong. Well, another spokesperson admitted there's no other way to describe this other than a straight up error in accounting. We deeply regret, by the way. So just, you know, and again, and more than likely, you know, this is the result of, you know, probably political correctness, where you have an elected official, and what they typically do is instead of putting the best trained person in for the position, you put somebody that, you know, in terms of political favors, right? So I guarantee if we dug real deep into this, which I'm not going to waste my time to, I got you know, bigger fish to fry, but I guarantee when you looked at it, when those budgeting numbers were drawn, it was probably done by people who have never been experienced, people of maybe they spent the majority of their time in academia studying economies and finance that never truly understand hardline budgets. But you know, that's just huge. That's going to be a huge for next year's budgeting for them of how to make up for those dollars.
Man, I am to say the least. I mean, what did they do? Did they go get a Greek accountant from Greece? Is that who they hired? That's what they did. They outsourced their state accounting to a Greek accounting firm. Okay, that's what they did. Wow. I'm speaking. You know, there's not a month that goes by that I'm not astounded by the stupidity of politicians and bureaucrats. I'm astounded. Just when you think they could surprise you, CJ, they go out and they do something like this. Oh man. Anyway, man, what else is on the radar, bro?
Well, you know, just very interesting enough. If you take a look at the actual gold, you know, what happened with gold the last 24 hours, and what's happening a little bit in China. You know, it looks like they've pivoted away a little bit from Bitcoin. They got a little bit scared of Bitcoin, and gold has shot up, right? Should we talk about that?
Yeah, let's go talk about that, and let's talk about what I've been saying for years with what's going on with Turkey, man. Let's go into it, man. Let's go start with Chinese.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, so basically what happened was that the Chinese investors have exited out of Bitcoin. You know, obviously you guys talked about that on Hump Day with the scare. It was not necessarily regarding Bitcoin, more so than the trades, right? Some of those bogus exchanges that were set up out there. But basically what happened, amid a weakening yuan and a tumbling Bitcoin, you know, again, not Bitcoin necessarily, just a crackdown on some of the bogus trades that were set up. Fiat paper offered by the PBOC in the week through Monday, China attracted 52 million, the biggest inflow into commodity-linked exchange trade funds of all countries, as China cracks down on various Bitcoin exchanges, sparking exodus from Bitcoin, China platforms, and into gold. So their gold prices have shot up here significantly the past 30 days, and it's continuously trending up.
Dude, it's truly remarkable to see that. I mean, again, this is going into this year, guys. I've been saying it for quite some time. We've been talking about it. We've been documenting this. It's going to be the hunt. Okay, everybody's going to jump into equities, but it's also going to be the hunt for safe havens. And those safe havens have always. It's going to be gold this time, Bitcoin to some extent. You know, silver. People need to get the hell out of the bond market. You're going to see that happen. I predict that's going to be a trend that we're going to see going into this year. Get ready for that. And then on top of that, CJ, what is going on with Turkey?
Yeah, so do you have that brought up, V?
Yep.
Could you lead us through that, please?
Oh, yeah. No worries. Yeah, so Turkey, I've been saying forever, like if you look at the historical role of Turkey, Turkey has been the center of gold trade settlement throughout the world in world history. That is their historical background, okay? London Paul went into some details about, and me and him discussed, especially the the little beta test that I called between Iran, India, and Turkey, where they were buying and selling oil and paying for it in gold trade settlement. Okay, that was the beta test. That was the model. London Paul talked about it. I'm sure that this Monday he's going to have a lot to say. So if you haven't got a chance to listen to that, if you go back and listen to it, London Paul will be here again on the Sirius Report on Monday, and he's going to probably discuss that as well. Now, the whole thing with Turkey, the access of gold and the end of the U.S. dollar hegemony is this: Turkey's gold imports is highly through the roof. Okay, they understand. Erdogan reminded of his citizens, to buy gold. That's why Erdogan says those who keep dollar or euro currency on their mattresses should come and turn them into liras or gold. That's what he's saying. This has been backed by such support that not only did Turkish gold imports rise and surge by 688% in the month of December to reach their highest monthly level in 2 years, but according to Reuters, fervent supporters have offered free haircuts, fish, and even tombstones to those who prove they have done so. What is it, CJ, about the rest of the world that understands this?
I think
it's a concept in the Western mind. How did we in the West get so stupid?
Well, I think, again, that they've, just better historians of understanding, fiat currencies and how they work. I mean, I think that every country is kind of seeing the writing on the wall in regards to the U.S. dollar and right. Seeing how the dollar, yes, it may be on a little bit of a spike, but definitely a weakening dollar in the future. Understanding the massive debt that we have, and gold has always been like one of those things, more like a good insurance policy to have, right?
Yeah, absolutely, always. It's look, people get gold not for investment. You want to go invest? Go get stocks. Go get ETFs, bonds. Go do forex. Go whatever. Go get yourself a broker or a broker's license, or trade yourself. Go be a day trader. Gold is a store of wealth. It's the insurance policy that underlines every portfolio. Right? Every portfolio. So here it is. December 2016, the imports have reached 37.7 tons. Like 40 tons of gold in the month of December for a tiny country, for a country that has the GDP of Turkey. That's pretty big. Significantly more than the 4.6 tons seen the same month last year. This accounted for more than one-third of the country's annual imports of 100 tons and more than double the 50 tons in 2015. Before 93, the Turkish gold market was not fully liberalized, since the Gold World Council reports that they've seen rapid growth in the sector. Now, here's the deal, guys. Okay, they understand that this is the way that they're going to save the lira. They're going to save their preeminence when this entire reset occurs. Okay, they're going to be able to save their rear ends. This demand in gold is going to allow Turkey to return. Look, one of the things we talked about is the Sharia gold trade. That's going to be the Islamic gold trade that's about to start in all these Muslim countries. Okay, they're getting into it. You're going to have literally at least 2 to 3 billion people involved in the gold trade. You cannot ignore it anymore. And already we're seeing the arbitrage. We're seeing the difference between the London price fix and the Shanghai price fix. It is literally two different things. So how much longer can this continue, CJ? Like, why would they go out there and have a 688% increase and encourage their citizens? And the Turkish citizens are happy. They're like, yeah, you buy gold, you can prove you bought gold, I'll give you a free haircut. Whoa, you buy gold, you can prove it, I'll give you a free meal, a free this. They're giving you incentives to go out and buy gold. But you got Americans who are running around with their smartphones looking to find Pokemon. I mean, running into traffic, winding up in graveyards, getting hit by cars, winding up on people's private properties, getting shot at so they can find Pokemon. And this is the reason why. Because the realignment that Erdogan's doing, and I'm no fan of Erdogan. I call him the I don't trust the guy. I've called him the turd in the hummus bowl many times. But the thing with Erdogan is this, CJ. he's doing a Gaddafi-like pivot. And the cocaine import agency, the Atlanticists, do not like it. Erdogan is playing both sides, but he understands that he needs to be at the focal point of gold trade. He doesn't have as much gold as the Chinese or the Russians. But if he can make Turkey a very friendly place to do business, if he can make Turkey a conduit, okay, a pivot point for the entire world trade for gold, and like as it used to be, CJ, then he and his country stands to prosper.
Absolutely, absolutely. Huge. And I think, and I think that's why we are saying it. You know, we talked about this the last show. You know, just looking around the globe and how many currencies right now are falling like crazy, right? Yeah. So you know, right now, every person listening should think about, you know, definitely diversifying. You know, again, Bitcoin, gold. You know, protect yourself, protect your family, to get ready in terms of, you know, the U.S. dollar and, you know, what is shaping up to be, you know, possibly a change in that. So again, just a lot of uncertainty right now. Obviously, with the new administration coming in, I think if we really focus on getting a lot of industries recovered in the United States, bringing some new ones in, bringing all the offshore money that's out there right now, bringing those dollars home, you know, hopefully we have enough to get us in a position where we can handle that debt. But to just continuously do the same thing, the tax and spend, the tax and spend, the tax and spend, we've been doing that, and it's not just a Democratic problem; it's a Republican problem as well. But we've got to bring some certainty to our economy, because if we don't do that, and we're seeing right now just the amount of currencies are falling in the fall of the gold, there's going to be a lot of people hurt if you're just sitting there in your same day by day of, you know, I've got money in my savings account, I've got my IRA, you know, I've got this. You've got to think a lot differently in the new world economy.
Yeah, 1,000%. It's come on, just, you know, get educated. You know, do your research. Look, in an age of information, okay, ignorance is a choice. It really is, CJ. It really, really is. Anyway, bro, that brings us to the end of the broadcast.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Wow.
Time flies when you're having fun, CJ.
It does. It does.
Audience.
Yeah, I was gonna get like a mimosa or something to have on the airbeat, but then I remember Bankster Slayers coming on later on, and she probably would harass me about that. So. Yeah, so everyone, listen, thank you for listening in. Again, we have an absolute spectacular show this afternoon coming on at 2 o'clock. The inauguration is at noon today, so we kind of timed it, you know, after that, because we know many people. I know I'll be watching, right? Yeah. So spectacular show coming on, and a lot of guests. So make sure you stay tuned to Rogue Money. So come back. Be with us live at 2 o'clock today. It's going to be an awesome show. I'm not hyping it up enough. I'm just saying that you know, there's going to be tons of guests. You're going to get a lot of insider baseball here. So very excited for that show.
I'm excited for it as well, man. It's going to be very exciting. We're going to have a lot of people on. It's going to be a great show. So check it out at starting at 2 p.m. today, going into 4. And also, guys, tonight, you know, tonight's show, man, if you want to conquer 2017, I'll need you guys to listen to me very carefully. You want to conquer 2017, you listen to tonight's broadcast at 8 p.m. with Ivan Thorne. It's going to be absolutely brutally kick-ass. We're going to strip you naked and throw you into the dark tides and make you deal with who you are and how to overcome. It's going to be freaking awesome. So check that out tonight. And also, guys, that's about it. CJ, give me a shout-out if you haven't done so already.
Yeah, no, I'm good. The only thing tonight's live broadcast, like I said, you know, be patient with us. Again, we're utilizing a captioning service that's going to help Ivan. I don't anticipate we were going to pre-record the show and then air it later on, but we're like, hey, you know what? We've got a lot of Ivan brought this company forth, and they said, hey, we know what we're doing. We think we can do the live show and do it well. So we're very excited. We want to give them that opportunity. We want to go live with this. So
Awesome.
again, listen in tonight. Make sure also, please do me a favor. This is a very important time in the new media coming forth. It's a great opportunity to be sharing this. And right now, there's still a lot of people that are plugged into their daily programming. So if you could definitely help spread the word to friends, family, we greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, that being said, I am the illustrious Ape, the gorilla in the Economist, and we'll be back later, sometime later at 2:00 today. And that's about it. And the guys, again, if you're struggling with debt, you need help, check out myfreedomnow.us. They can help you get the credit score you deserve. Get debt free. Check out myfreedomnow.us. And with that being said, CJ, we're over and out. Take it away, my man.